I don't think he was totally aware of the importance of what he was doing, because he just had a mission to educate people. We always had books in our home. I think I was reading the newspaper at the age of 4, and my father always taught us that that books gave you education and helped you to experience things that you might not be able to experience otherwise. Legacy means everything to me because I am able to understand and appreciate what my father did. He was an innovator, he was a trailblazer. He found a passion, something that was important to him, and he decided to share that with other people. Hi, my name is Yvonne Blake, and I'm the second generation owner of Hakeem's Bookstore, located at 210 South 52nd Street in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Dawood Hakeem was my father, and he started this store in 1959 after he became interested in books about African Americans that he came across by the noted historian J.A. Rogers. One of the books was The 5 Negro Presidents, the other one was 100 Amazing Facts About the Negro. And once he read these books, he became aware of the fact that our true history and culture was not being taught, and he wanted to help to educate people about the true history of African Americans. As a young girl, I didn't realize the importance of what my father was doing because I had never faced direct racism. I went to integrated schools. I had friends that came over to my house of different races. So I wasn't really aware of everything that was going on in the 60s. I was like 10 years old. And it wasn't until later that I became aware of the importance of the books that my father was selling and how important it was to educate everyone, not just African Americans, about our history and our culture.
My name is Glenda Cook, and I'm a family member, and we are sisters by another mother. I've been here all my life, mostly, at least over 35 years, in between going to school, working other jobs, things like that. I started when I was like 13 years old. The store we had on 60th Street, backyard was actually in my family's backyard. So walking in the neighborhood and going to stores and things like that, Hakeem would be in the doorway, and he asked me if I liked to read. And my first book was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And that's how I started working there, after school.
People started to talk to me about my father's store, and I started seeing the things that he was doing. I realized that this was really an important place. And also when I started becoming aware of the fact that there were very few African American bookstores, and especially African American bookstores that had children's books, that had children in them that looked like me and that looked like us. And so, I made it my decision to continue the business.
Peace and blessings. I'm Brother Chris, the community outreach specialist here at Hakeem's Bookstore. I've been volunteering here. The books that I found here at Hakeem's Bookstore, they're holistic. They fill in all the gaps that wasn't filled in or properly filled in my formal education. Me being a product of Philadelphia School District, me going on to higher education, getting my bachelor's degree, having a master's degree, it was so much that I learned for the first time once I started volunteering and giving my time here and putting my face in some of the pages of the books on the shelf. We have books for every generation of the household. We take pride in that. We wouldn't have been able to make it to 60 years of business if we only spoke to just 1 or 2 generations. But we have to consider that in our story, our children always were able to get seeds from the elders as early as possible.
I was approached by the University City Historical Society that works with businesses here in West Philadelphia about this being declared a historical landmark because we are the first and oldest African American bookstore in Philadelphia and on the East Coast. I was amazed, and I remember thinking, if that happens, I will be so happy for my dad. So I am elated because he actually worked really, really hard to keep this store going and to do all that he did. Legacy is the ability to pass something down to other generations. And it's important to me because my father was a first in what he did. And even though he didn't get any support, or he got very little support in the beginning, and we really struggled. He really struggled. I didn't understand why he was selling these books that nobody wanted to read. And now that I'm an adult, and as I got older and I really was able to appreciate what he was doing, I think he'd be happy and I think he'd be proud.